But I'm looking through the clips and stuff I want to talk about today, and our beloved Can't Stop Lion sends me some stuff, and then I go look for some stuff and kind of meet in the middle. And bless him for going through the amount of stuff that we go through. But it's because I don't like to watch stuff ahead of time because I think it's a little better when I present this as an act of wit and intelligence as opposed to setting up what's effectively gotchas. So I see these videos and I'm pulling most of the information that we're talking about during the show from my head as we go along. If I need to look something up, I do. But I don't prep ahead of time like, I'm going to zing them, right? And sometimes when I am looking at clips that CSL sends me, literally the first picture makes me laugh so hard that I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do the clip. I don't know if I'll be able to handle it. And this is just whatever morning show this is fucking magic. This is amazing. This is like the worst local morning show. Like after a hurricane knocked out AM Tulsa, these folks decided from their garage to pick up where the station left off. And Dinesh Debbie D'Souza and his wife Kimberly decide to just go on the air and help people get through. Does the left want to replace the 4th of July with Juneteenth? No. Okay. I hope that cleared it up, and I think we can just skip the video entirely. I'm glad to answer it for you. No, I have no interest in doing that. As a matter of fact, I think Juneteenth itself fortifies the value and beauty of July 4th, actually. It adds to its value, doesn't subtract. So, but I'm sure Dixiecrats Macy Gray will find something. So let's see what he has to say.
Hey, we wanted to talk, Debbie and I did about...
Oh, it is Debbie D'Souza. So this is his wife, Debbie. This is Debbie D'Souza. For those of you who don't know, she's the producer of the Dinesh D'Souza podcast and is the person who brings you the big screen TV on the stand behind the little desk in the garage with the red cart. She does all this work. Thank you so much, Debbie, for
this
upping
controversy that's sort of swirling around the newest holiday, federal holiday, which is...
Yes, this is big controversy.
Juneteenth. Now,
why are you telling her this? She's the producer of the show. In theory, the two of you would be telling us. But I love being like someone at Olive Garden, 2 tables away, going, why is this guy lecturing his wife about something she already knows about?
For people who don't know,
Why are you looking at her when you say that?
Juneteenth is a celebration of the end of slavery, I guess.
Yes. Dinesh. Kiddo. This way. Look at the audience. They're that way. She knows. She's the producer. That's your wife. She knows about this. Matter of fact, there's a reason you're having her on, presumably that this was her idea.
I guess this is when slavery finally collapsed in the Confederacy.
Oh, okay. Is that what happened? It collapsed in the Confederacy on Juneteenth? It wasn't that after the Civil War was over on Juneteenth, Union soldiers went down to Galveston, Texas to tell people that were previously enslaved that they were no longer slaves because that information had been kept from them. No, but you know what? My my version. And by the way, if you're watching, how's this? Jimmy Dore is on time for real show. How's just fodder? Jimmy Dore is 7,000 watching. Yeah, I don't care. Jimmy Dore is an awful person, and Donald Trump had a lot of viewers on The Apprentice. That doesn't make him a decent person. So have fun. Please go watch Jimmy Dore's show. He's an awful, awful person. So good luck with that. And yeah, there you go.
And
please, yeah, don't tell us. Tell her.
And The left has been pushing this as a holiday.
Yeah, the left has. The left has been pushing this. Not the right has been pushing against this.
What is your take on all this?
Yeah, what is your take on all this? Now that I've just told you what the show is about and I'm wrong, yeah.
Well, like everything else, I think it's just another form of pandering and another form of dividing. As
I'm sorry. For a moment there, I just believed, like, I felt like her voice should be coming out of his face.
you know, I'm Hispanic, right? And we have a Hispanic
Sure.
Heritage Month, which weirdly starts September 15th and goes through October 15th.
So it's a month worth of time, but it's not the actual month. And I mean, I don't know why that would be, why you would start that on, I guess, Canadian Thanksgiving. Does that have something to do with
So
it?
that's not really a month. That's like
It's like half of one month and half of another month, and together it makes a whole month,
half a month here and half a month there. But anyway, all that to say,
but a whole month of time.
it's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. Juneteenth should be, but shouldn't, I mean, for it to be truly Juneteenth, it should be midway through October.
I think that if you are Hispanic, celebrate your heritage all year. You don't need a month.
Uh-huh. Yeah, but when were the Spanish slaves freed from the Aztecs? Wait.
Yeah, let me spell out. This is what I think
Yeah, please interrupt her because no one knows what the fuck she's talking
is
about.
the political agenda behind it. Because by itself, I have no objection to Juneteenth. Obviously,
Yeah, obviously, because the the Democrats want it and the left supposedly is pushing forward, I have to push back against it vehemently as a racist thing, even though I technically agree with its existence is kind of a good thing. I mean, celebrating the end of slavery in the United States actually is a sign that one would think the right wing would support to some degree, that slavery is over and that we've moved past that and that we are a more united country. And since then, a lot of time has passed and all that. But please don't, no. Be against
celebrate the end of slavery and the collapse of the Confederacy. In fact,
yeah, that's not what it celebrates, but I'm for it celebrating the collapse of the Confederacy. As a matter of fact, I'm for any holiday that celebrates the collapse of the Confederacy. As a matter of fact, any day that isn't technically a federal holiday to me is a day that's open to the celebration of the collapse of the Confederacy. I'm all for it. By God, it's why I proudly wear the American flag quite regularly, and so there you go.
very important to point out that the Confederacy was supported by the Democratic Party.
Right. The Dixiecrats. Yeah. You mean the ones that,
initially in the North and the South, and throughout the war, even the Northern Democrats
were
trying to do what they could to undermine Lincoln. I think the political agenda here is this. They don't want us to celebrate July 4th because
Yeah, we do. July 4th is amazing. I'm going to supply. I suggest that all of my viewers enjoy a wonderful July 4th and appreciate all the gifts that America, in its essence, gives not only to the people of this country but to the world in general. All of its best things. As a matter of fact, by celebrating our better nature on those days, and maybe even taking a day off from the critical aspects of dealing with what we need to fix about our country, the warts and all aspect of going through it, that on July 4th you do recognize the valuable things that America gives and is about, and I'm for that. And I, as a big old lefty, I'm all in on that. As a matter of fact, and like I said, I think that the existence of Juneteenth actually fortifies the value of July 4th, and they're not the same fucking thing.
July 4th celebrates the founders, so they're trying to take July.
No, it doesn't. July 4th does not celebrate the founders. It celebrates the independence of our country after a battle was fought against the British, and in many ways the fortification of democracy on Earth as an entity that carried forward for, so far we've got a tooth chipped or two, but we're hanging in there. We got a hockey goalie's nose at this point, but we're hanging on.
July 4th and replace it to some degree with this idea of
No, not replacing it at all, actually. It's another summer holiday. It'd be kind of great that it becomes a, another kind of like family barbecue holiday, and we recognize that. But I would argue that you could say that there were two Independence Days, when we fought off the British, and another when we fought off the racist South at the time, especially around slavery. Ending slavery was yet another emancipation for not just black people and slaves, but for the country as a whole, fighting back against the people who were supporting that and winning that war. And a lot of white abolitionist youngsters from the North were killed in that process, and some in the South that helped the slaves escaping and pushing back against it. They're also celebrating those folks. That's another good holiday for that. I mean, obviously it eats into your narrative about Democrats and stuff, but whatever.
Of Juneteenth. I think this is kind of why Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens have gotten a little bit of flack.
You got flack. It could be that they're just loose-lipped morons that are incapable of understanding the deeper meaning of these kind of things and are just reacting to them in a hyper-political way.
The left is like, what are you against the end of slavery? But they're onto something.
What are you, against the end of slavery? And of course we are, but
something, because what they've noticed is that this is
so good, and I love watching this conversation. This is such a sweet couple.
Displacement strategy by the left. So the political context is what's so revealing. Basically, Charlie and Candace are saying we're still going to celebrate July 4th.
Right. So am I. I just don't. My belief about July 4th and the value of America as a patriot myself is not diminished by Juneteenth. It's actually, it benefits it because I'm not weak and easily led around by dipshits like this guy.
Now, I think what's interesting about this is, and I'd like to know your take on it.
You can't expect much, though. She just heard about this from you as you were breathing it into her face.
Is July 4th is what made possible Juneteenth. And here's what I mean.
Why do we celebrate Easter? We have Christmas, and Christmas made Easter possible. Why the
Abraham Lincoln said that the founders declared our rights, all men are created equal, so that the enforcement could follow when the circumstances permitted. So it was really, Juneteenth was a realization of the principle of the Declaration of Independence. So the left...
Right, yeah. And having a holiday around it is a great idea.
Wants to use
the Romans made Easter possible, right?
Juneteenth against the founding, even though it's the founding that made possible Juneteenth. That's the distortion, I think, that they're...
Why are you talking to her? And why doesn't she know that you guys didn't discuss this before you decided to put out this video?
Pushing, and that's the thing that we should resist.
Right. So would you be okay with them?
Oh boy, this is going to be good. I'm waiting for this. Please, I can't wait. This is the analogy of all analogies. Would you be okay with? Oh, this is going to be. I can't wait. It's going to be so good.
Not resisting July 4th, but adding this new holiday as well.
Yeah.
That's what's actually happening. That wasn't an analogy at all. It was like, this is so weird.
I have no problem with that at all. Now, Joe Biden...
Yeah, but that doesn't make a good video. Thanks, producer of the Dinesh D'Souza podcast, for knifing my tires.
Biden, interestingly, in announcing Juneteenth, he said this. He goes, a great country comes to terms with the painful aspects of its history. Now, I don't disagree, but
I need to come up with something in it that I disagree with. Otherwise, we're halfway through this video, and I don't know where I stand.
That's the one thing that's missing in the entire Juneteenth controversy.
Okay, here it is. The one thing.
There's no mention of the Democratic Party. In other words,
there's what?
The Democratic Party was the anchor of slavery.
Yeah, and then the Dixiecrats switched over to becoming Republicans, and the Southern strategy is the Republicans basically reinforcement of, and right around the time that was happening, that's when they were putting Confederate statues all over the place as like chess pieces back on the board.
There wasn't even that much slavery in the founding compared to what you got in the 19th century. The massive plantation system in the South was sustained by one political party.
Yes, there wasn't nearly as much slavery when the Civil War when the colonies were started as there was a couple of hundred years later. Yeah.
And opposed by the other political parties. So the fact that the Democrats not only promoted and sustained slavery, but even after the Civil War, they opposed the 13th Amendment, freeing the slaves. They opposed the 14th Amendment. So if
Yes, she knows. Why are you yelling at her? She's your wife and your producer. She's heard this argument hundreds of times. It's in your big dumb Trump is Lincoln movie that's right over your shoulder. No matter how many times you say this, Dinesh, no one's buying it. Everybody knows the parties basically crossed the streams around the civil rights movement. And the argument that somehow the modern Democratic Party that elected both Barack Obama and Kamala Harris is the party of Strom Thurmond somehow is it's spectacular ridiculousness, and I'm enjoying every second of it.
If you could get some honesty, I mean, notice that all the
yeah, why won't they bring up shit everybody knows that doesn't pertain to modern politics? Why can't we blame the Democrats for how the Republicans are acting right now?
Progressives who never mention the word Democrat in this context, they belong to the Democratic Party. So they're hiding their own party's...
Yeah, exactly. Why are you leaning into her space? And why is she like, yeah, honey, I get it. I'm trying to...
Complicity. If you want to be honest and embrace the painful aspects...
Oh, God. Is it breakfast with the D'Souzas?
So in history, the Democratic Party needs to say that as a party, we did this. We apologize for it. We take responsibility.
Oh, I see. So we're still... So my family that are from the like Ohio Valley, Northern Kentucky area, who have family members who fought in the Civil War against the South, who are Democrats currently, who might have identified as Republicans back then, but as they switched streams, obviously transitioned with it. I'm supposed to apologize. My family's supposed to apologize for my family line having a different label for who they were back then, but for their actions, not okay.
Responsibility for it. If there are any reparations to pay, we will pay them.
Yes. Anybody whose family were Dixiecrats back then or slaveholders at the time, yeah, you can knock yourself out.
But
talk them into it.
Good luck waiting for that. Luck waiting for that to happen.
We've often said it's like the
And we've often said, we beat this dead horse so many times.
firefighters setting the fire and then coming back and ousting it, right? This is how they behave.
It's a great analogy. Yes, firefighters setting the fire and then dousing the fire. That's exactly it. Or it could be that the arsonists themselves were, wearing, I guess, the mask. Let's try this analogy out a little bit. That there were firefighters and arsonists, and at some point, the firefighters put on their street clothes and weren't wearing their firefighter outfits. So the arsonists decide to put on the firefighter outfits that they found laying there and started trying to convince everyone that they weren't the arsonists, they were the firefighters now, because the firefighters were fighting the fire that they set before, so that till they could get out of town. This is, I mean, I'm getting a brain cramp from these people.
Behave. If they cause the problem and then they act like the savior that is trying to solve that problem.
Well, they're not acting like it. These are people trying to actually solve a problem, and they weren't alive then. So
progressives admitted the Democrats did this. They would have to explain, why are you now in a party that has this ugly history? And by the way,
and why are you now trying to stop brown and black people from voting if you're a Republican who would have been the party of Lincoln and that stuff? Yeah.
It's not just, quote, history. The same Democrats are in charge of the inner cities. They are responsible for the breakdown of the black family. They're responsible.
They are? So Democrats are going around breaking up black families? Is that what our job is? Oh, it's because rather than let kids starve, We put in social programs to make sure that kids had enough food to eat and they got an education and that they didn't have lead paint in their walls and that kind of stuff. So in the paint, on the wall. So by doing that, we broke up black families. That was just because that was slavery 2.0.
Responsible for these violent upsurges of crime that are made possible by their policies. They're responsible for the terrible public schools. So the burden falls on them. And I think.
Sorry, why are they responsible for the terrible public schools? Because Democrats didn't push harder against Republicans trying to cut funding for schools? Oh, okay.
The whole game that they play with critical race theory is to shift blame around. They want some 4-year-old white kid who's coming into kindergarten. They want to blame that kid instead of blaming themselves and their...
Right. Why don't you blame... They want to blame this little white kid who wasn't alive at the time, who might grow up to be a Democrat, even though based on what the Democrats do now, not on what the name was back during slavery, and they want modern progressives who are identifying as Democrats to be on the hook for shit that Republicans are still advocating for today.
Their party and their own ugly history. Talk about evading responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, when are people in their 40s who vote Democrat in this country, when are they going to own up to their history of being slave owners?
Yeah, well, they're doing it to divide. Honey,
that's why they're trying to do it, to divide.
Often mentioned this.
Yeah, we know.
With Hugo Chavez and what he did in Venezuela and how he declared Christopher Columbus Day null and void. And instead, he made it Indigenous Day. Why? Because he wants to create division.
That's what he did. Yeah, he wants to divide the indigenous from the Italians in Venezuela.
This is the only way that these leftist socialist people retain power. Why?
Oh my God. For a while there, I thought he was telling her the dumb ideas. Now I think we know who wears the idiot slacks in this family.
Because they pit one group of people against another. So this is no...
Oh, you mean so like I hear what you're saying. Let me go with this though. So let's say, I don't know, you had like an idea for a holiday called Juneteenth that celebrates the end of slavery in the country, which should be a bonding thing for the entire country because America, unlike a lot of other countries that had slavery, for example, fought a war to stop it and then engaged with British forces after the fact to stop it worldwide, and were engaged in the anti-slavery movement across the entire globe. And that by celebrating Juneteenth in America, we could maybe recognize that fact, the important place that America had in stopping slavery, to what extent it doesn't still exist in certain areas of the world to this day. But it's better if we don't have that, because it might divide people on between what division would be caused by this? The people who are still mad that slavery was ended and everyone else?
No surprise to me that the left and the Democrats are doing it here in America.
Oh, yeah, because we basically do whatever Hugo Chavez does in Venezuela. We just try it here,
So, and to sum up, I think what we'd have to say is that there's nothing wrong in and of itself with Juneteenth. We're for Juneteenth.
No, we're for it in general or whatever. But it divides people because it upsets modern Republicans who know that their family members were Democrats before the civil rights movement and were an integral part of Southern slavery and were wearing like Confederate flags and saying the South will rise again and calling the Civil War the War of Northern Aggression, that it divides those people out from, say, 80% of Americans who think this is a good thing.
Or Juneteenth. But when you look at the context and you look at the underlying political agenda, you have to realize that it's part of a propaganda campaign, not to inform, not to have honest debate, not to take responsibility, but to propagandize and to lie to young people.
And
well, why would you do that if you were doing a propaganda holiday, for example, and you get it passed and it actually goes through? Wouldn't it just be a reminder every year of that thing? Wouldn't Democrats eventually, wouldn't that come up? Wouldn't that give a great opportunity for, I don't know, right-wing propaganda that somehow the Democrats during the Civil War are the same as the Democrats today, and the Republicans during the Civil War are the same today, and yet we know they aren't? Galveston, Texas?
And divide.
And divide.
But no one can divide better than Dinesh and his wife, Debbie, the triple D.